Welcome to the Books of the Month show. I am Melanie, filling in for Bishop O.C. Pringle, and we are here again with Marc Hardage, who is the author of a book called The Healing. It is a follow-up to his previous book called The Knock. And so, Marc, let's jump in and talk about this book and what this book has to do with the other book, The Knock.
Okay, great. Like you just mentioned, it's a follow-up. It's more or less a sequel to the Knock. And basically what it amounts to, Melanie, it's the story of what happens a year later after the chaplain shows up at the house and knocks on the door and gives the family the news about their son that's been killed in Afghanistan. A whole year goes by, and the chaplain, of course, and the father are very good friends from college. But there's a little tension now because he had to deliver some very bad news, and they've spoken through emails over the year, but they decide to come back and reacquaint themselves with their old friendship. And so the chaplain and his wife show up back at the house to just say hello. And basically the story is about what happens that weekend while they're there to visit with the family.
Okay, so let's just give a quick synopsis of the book and what it is for somebody who may not know about, the previous book, The Knock. Let's just run through it real quickly, kind of what this book is and what it means and what The Knock is.
Okay, sure. The Knock, of course, is a story about one of the oldest brother of three boys in the family who joins the Navy, becomes a Navy SEAL, and he goes off to Afghanistan. And on a mission, his helicopter crashes and he's killed in action. So the chaplain comes to the house to tell the family what happened during the middle of a soccer party. The younger brother's team is celebrating winning the state championship. So it's a little bit of a chaotic moment when the chaplain arrives. But this story, The Healing, is what happens a year later. And as I mentioned, the brother who was killed has a wife and she has a baby while he's gone. And so now the family's dealing with the little baby, and so The Healing is basically the story about, like I said, what happens a year later. But there's another little twist to the story because when the chaplain and his wife show up, of course, they talk to the family and everything's good, and they're all out on the back porch, just having a beverage and just kind of reacquainting themselves with their really good friendship.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the platoon leader from the SEAL team shows up unexpectedly to say hello to the family, and he's returning two necklaces that he got off of his teammate that was killed in action, and he's returned them to give them back to the family. And so that brings a little bit of a hectic moment when he shows up unexpectedly, because now we've got the whole family here. The chaplain and his wife are reacquainting themselves, and now here comes the platoon leader to show up and bring the two necklaces back.
So it seems like in these two stories that every time the family's together having a good old time, life throws a wrench, right? It's kind of how it goes in real life, though. Like I said, you're never really prepared for tragedy. Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is when the platoon leader comes in, he was also at the wedding when the brother married the girl who now has the little baby, and so he's also friends with the family. So he knows everybody, and now he's kind of throwing another little, if you will, a little wrench into the mixture here, like, we weren't expecting you to show up.
Right.
But they ask him to stay for the weekend, and he does, and the story evolves about how his relationship with the brothers now continues, and the different things that they do together that reacquaint their friendship. And it's just it's a story about family, and basically called The Healing, where they all kind of are moving forward from the tragedy that happened a year before.
So in the book, The Healing, where a family has to now learn how to live life with the loss of a son, a husband, a father, a brother, a cousin, whoever, what do they do to kind of get through it? How do they come together? Is faith involved? Is it therapy? What kind of things do they do to kind of get to that point?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. Of course, I said earlier that they are definitely a family of faith, and that is what's helping get them through all this. And of course, the chaplain comes, and he's best friends with the dad from way back in college, and so the story kind of talks. It shows about the relationship that each of them have with each other, and then how each of them deal individually and then as a family with the loss that they've experienced. And then the chaplain being there kind of helps everybody through the tragedy that happened. And then now they've got the little new grandson that's with everybody, and the brothers are kind of taking him under their wing. And of course, he's just a toddler at this time, so he's brand new. But it's kind of it just takes the whole family back together, and they're all kind of coming back into a point where, like, okay, we had a tragedy, we understand that, we're a family of faith, and now we're going to deal with it and move on. And that's basically what it's all about.
Awesome. So since these are the characters are all loosely based on your actual children, does your son, the oldest son, does he have a wife and a child?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I didn't know if you were just speaking it into existence or if it was real. That's really awesome. Okay, so would you consider these faith-based books, or are they just books that touch on faith? Like, how do you categorize them?
I wouldn't classify them as just totally faith books, but there's definitely a underlying tone there that they are a family of faith, and I wanted to make sure that came across in the story, because that's important in my own life, as
right.
You know, and so it's important for all of the family too. And then again, that's kind of the thread that sews them all together that gets them through this event.
Right. So definitely inspirational, at least, right? Awesome. Yes. So yeah, these books are really cool, and let's talk again about some of the people that helped you out with writing it. I do see that you have some reviews on the U.S. Review, and you said you've done a radio station interview and things of that nature. What kind of feedback have you received from people who read the book, from people who've both been in the military and people who haven't? What kind of feedback have you received?
It's been that's a really good question. It's been very positive. And when I sent the book, The Healing, off to the publisher, I did not know that they were going to send it to the U.S. Review. And when I got the back cover back, they said, "Oh, how you like that?" And as you can tell them, it was a very flattering review that they gave me, and I'm like, yes. Okay, that's very nice. So I was happy to see that. But it's been very, very positive. The people that are in the military that read it go, "Hey, you got it just exactly right." And then the people who have no relation to the military, but like you said earlier, have experienced a tragedy in their life, go, "Man, yeah. that is exactly how it helps to deal with it, an event like that happens to a family." Right.
So the way that you wrote this book, can it be read on its own as a standalone book, or must you know the other part of the story?
It can be done as a standalone book. It would probably be beneficial if you read the first one first, just so you'll have the background.
Right.
But I've had people that did not know anything about the first one, but have read this one and said, "Oh, so is this like a follow-up or something?" I went, "I'll go, yeah," and they'll go, "Well, where can I get the first one? I want to read it too." So that's you can use it as a standalone, but it also is probably get more insight if you've read the first one.
Yeah, so that's really cool that you wrote it that way, where somebody could, because being that it's called The Healing, somebody could just see this and say, "Oh, that might be a book I need to read," but then that it's written so well, apparently, that people want to dig deeper and get to know the characters more and kind of go backwards. That's kind of an interesting way to do it, because people don't typically go that way, but that's kind of flattering, for somebody to read this and then want to read the previous book.
Sure.
Yeah, awesome. So tell me again some of the people that you turned to help with, some of the details of the story, and just some of the who inspired you to write it, and kind of where you got your, maybe your mentorship with it.
Well, that's a very good question. And as far as the faith part really comes into play in The Healing, and the interesting part for me is my father is a retired minister.
Oh.
And so he was in the ministry for 62 years.
Wow.
So whenever I have a question about, because he's obviously had to counsel people who've had a loss in their family, and I've asked him, how does it go? And some people he said will just, freak out and go bananas, and some people who, especially people who have a family of faith, they have a better way to deal with things like that. And so he helped me a lot with that part of it as well. And then other friends and family that have experienced this thing, an event like this in the past in their life, have helped me with the emotions that they feel and how they deal with things like that. And so that's where it all came from.
That's really cool. And so on this book in particular, you really just turned to your father to help with that kind of thing. Did you turn to any of your military people for any information? Did you touch up with them on this one?
Yes, a little bit. The same people that helped me with the first one.
Yeah.
They, especially with the chaplain part of it, and how they come back. But a lot of it was more. I used a lot of my friends, especially the ones that I've had for 40 years from college that are good buddies of mine. I said, how does your family deal with things like this? And they would give me some insight, and then I recognize how my own family deals with things like that. But it's more or less just and the part I think is very neat is that the teammate, the platoon leader comes back, and it kind of shows how very close knit the SEAL teams are. And after talking to my buddy who is on the SEAL team, he's like, man, it's like you're closer than your brothers, because you depend on each other all the time.
Yeah, for sure. So in this book, what is probably your favorite part about this part of the story?
The part of this is the relationship that the platoon leader has with the family. He only met them at the wedding, but he's been best friends with their son for a long, long time. And they weren't served on the same SEAL team together. But the part about it that I like the most is the way that he shows up unexpectedly. The chaplain's there, they're renewing their friendship, everybody's getting along, and all of a sudden he shows up and goes, oh, I just interrupted everything, didn't I?
Yeah.
But he takes that, and the father and the mom invite him to come in. They make sure that he stays and spends the night, the whole weekend with the family. And so there's a series of stories that go on about, did you remember when this happened? And the brothers talk about an event that happened here with their other brother, and just different things that happen. And in the book, there's a sequence of pictures on the wall, and they're talking about, well, what was that about? What's that about?
Yeah.
And it's just tells more about how the family gets along with each other and how they deal with things like that happen.
Well, that's really good. And that's a good testament to one, people who have faith can get through things, but also family, because you can have faith and be alone and still kind of have that emptiness. But when you have an entire family that's all kind of knitted together, it helps you get through things. And so, like, I really see this, it's like I said, it's a book beyond just military. Military is obviously the very, very, at the very core of this thing and kind of the driving force of it, but you can really apply it anywhere. So that's kind of cool that you did it that way.
Yeah, and you nailed it right there. It's just it can fit just about any family, anywhere, at any time, for any situation, basically.
All right. Well, this is a good place for us to take a little break, and we will be back with Marc Hardage to continue talking about his book called The Healing. Thank you.
Great.
Our Father, which art in
The words of the Bible are a guiding light for the faithful. Now, the spoken word of God can be heard anytime, anywhere. Introducing Wonder Bible, the incredible Bible that speaks.
The Lord is my shepherd.
Simply turn on your Wonder Bible, and a pleasant voice reads the book to you.
So then faith cometh by hearing.
Listen to the letters, gospels, psalms, and more.
I can do all things through Christ.
Own your Wonder Bible for only $39.99. Comes with a charging cable and built-in earphone jack. Free. Wonder Bible features 10 free preloaded meditation music tracks. There's more. For our best offer yet, you can double your offer. Just pay a separate fee. We'll even ship it to you free. 100% risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. Order now.
To order the Wonder Bible for $39.99 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-958-7004 or order online at wonderbible.com.
Welcome back to the Books of the Month show. I am Melanie, filling in for Bishop O.C. Pringle, and we are here with Marc Hardage to continue talking about his book called The Healing, which is a continuation of a book called The Knock. And so, Marc, let's jump into that part where we left off, where the platoon leader is coming to the home. And
okay.
They have two necklaces they've recovered from the son's, I guess, belongings. Is that kind of what I'm understanding?
Well, what happened, and the way the story is working is when the helicopter crashed, and the platoon leader is back at their base, and they rush to try to find out what happened in another helicopter, and they find the young man who has passed away, and he's there, but he's got in his hand these two necklaces, and one of them is a bear tooth necklace that his father had given him from a tooth of a bear that he shot on a hunting trip in Alaska. And then the other necklace is one that his wife had given him that he gave to her on their honeymoon.
Oh.
It's a pearl necklace. and he has both of them in his hands, and the platoon leader takes them from him, and at that point in time, he makes a vow that some way he's going to get those back to the family.
Oh,
and so,
cool.
And so that's what happens when 1 year later, the chaplain and his wife showed up, and they're all on the back porch having a beverage and talking, and then the platoon leader shows up, and everybody's freaks out a little bit, but he walks up and says, I want to give these back to you, and he just drops them on the table, and everybody's like, what?
Wow.
And so then the story progresses from there about why he came back, what he's doing with the necklaces, the significance of giving them back to the family. He wants to give the bear-tooth necklace back to the family because he got it from the brother, and he wants to give the other necklace back to the wife because she gave it to his friend. So he's coming back to make sure that he fulfills his obligation to his best friend to make sure everybody gets their gift back, if you will.
That's cool. That happens a lot, I'm sure, right? Where maybe a random guy, seemingly random guy, he knew your son or he knew your daughter and you didn't even know, but here he is bearing these gifts, from beyond almost. I can imagine how emotional that would be in a real life scenario. A good feeling and a kind of a sorrowful feeling.
Well, it was kind of interesting when I'm like I said earlier, when I was writing it, I was kind of like, I can picture exactly how it would have happened in my mind.
Yeah.
With my family, and I'm like, okay, this is exactly how that would have done. This is exactly how that would have taken place. And so it was kind of interesting for me to go, boy, I'm glad this didn't happen to my family, but I know how it would have happened if it had been that way. And so it was easy. It really was to sit down and write it out. Like, here's what would have happened. Here's how they would have reacted. Here's what they would have done next. And here's what that person would have said to this guy, and so forth. And it's all the dialogue in the story that I really feel like it would have happened that way. Yeah,
it's almost like you literally, from your side of it, it's like you wrote the characters, but you just really observed the characters, and you just kind of, because you know your family, you know your friends, and so they're great subjects right, to use.
That's true.
Do you have anybody in your personal life who's experienced something like that, receiving, something from their loved one that they've lost?
Yeah, not me so much personally, but when we were talking earlier about my chaplain friend who actually had to come knock on somebody's door, and then my father who's actually had to deal with people counseling them after a death in the family. And it was, I got a lot of insight from those two guys that were telling me, here's the emotion that you're going to feel, here's the emotion the family's going to feel, and it all kind of come together from everybody's point of view. It's like, okay, here's how it would have happened this way, here's how it would have happened this way. But like we said earlier, this event happens all too often every day in America, so like we mentioned earlier, the thing I would like to make sure everybody understands is that freedom is not free. There is a great military that's supporting us all every single day, all over the world.
And it's kind of, easy to, out of sight, out of mind. You forget, that they're there. You forget that you may have a friend whose son or daughter has gone off, and in the moment, you're like, oh, wow, but then after a little time has gone by, you forget that they're still not home, and this family is still dealing with it, where it's out of your mind, and they could be getting, a knock. They could be getting an item brought to their door, and I just can't imagine it. So I think the way you wrote it, and with the help that you had, I think it makes it super realistic, even though it's a fictional story. I keep having to remind myself it's a fictional story because the way that you wrote it and with the help that you had, it really brings in all the true elements, the true emotions, all of that. Emotions from both sides, the platoon leader, the chaplain, the people hurt, and that's a really cool way to write a story. If you're going to write a story, make me feel like I literally just experienced that.
Sure. Well, I have a nephew right now who is deployed.
Okay.
And so, you hit it right on the head. He's not home.
Right.
And he's going to be gone for another probably 4 to 5 more months. And another friend whose daughter is deployed, but she's coming home next month.
Okay.
And so, there's
it's a continuous.
Somebody who's in the military somewhere, and so I think it's important that we understand what a great service they are to all of us.
Indeed, and like I said, with my youngest brother being in the Air Force, and he's a pilot, And although it's like on one hand, it's super cool that he gets to fly planes, but then it's like, wait a minute, but it's for the Air Force, you know. So there's also that added element of like, wow, like this is a real deal, you know, and anything at any moment could literally happen. I mean, even at a base. And so, you know, I'm really interested in letting him hear about these books and sharing this with him because, you know, he may have a friend. You just never know. And these books, I think, are very impactful. I think, and I really do like the fact that you did include the faith part of it, because for somebody who doesn't have a relationship with Christ, you know, or just have any knowledge of anything, but they've lost somebody, or somebody's still gone, and they don't know how to, you know, deal with it, or they're not handling it very well. Something like this could very well, it could literally be the catalyst, the seed planted to lead them to another place. You know what I mean? Because if the faith in this family and the togetherness of this family was able to get through the trials and the tribulations, well, that's exactly what I'm feeling, and this could literally be somebody's life that you wrote. I don't even know if you realize how powerful, you know what I mean, the book is.
And the other part about my father is a Korean War veteran as well. And so, it's one of the coolest things, and this is just a personal story, but one of the coolest things that happened just a couple of months ago, he was selected to be on an honor flight to go to Washington, D.C. in April, and I get to go along and be his guardian.
Whoa!
Yeah, it's very cool.
That's awesome. I think you should take these books with you. You just never know. You just never know. Yeah, my biological father was actually was in the Vietnam War, and so I totally understand all of this. And he told me he'd lost lots of buddies, and he actually had a box full of items that belonged to other people. They gave them to him, but one of his desires was to get those items to, you know, families, but unfortunately he passed. So, you know, so here these boxes with this stuff, you know, but yeah, I think it's super cool, and I'm pretty excited to read these books myself, and I wish I had actually had a chance to read them prior, but now actually, you know, talking to you and getting to know you and getting to know the mindset and what's behind it all, reading them, I will have a better love for the characters, and like I feel like I know the people. That's what I said. I have to keep reminding myself it's actually fictional because you've based everything on a real person, and that's cool. How did your son feel about the fact that, I mean, he dies and he leaves his family behind? How did he feel about that part of the story?
Well, that's a good question. I asked him about that before I started.
Let me just make sure you're good.
Are you good with this? And of course he was. So everything's fine. And so. The other thing that's kind of interesting for us is, you know, he's got a little baby who's now almost a year old.
Wow.
But his son has cystic fibrosis.
Oh, okay.
So, the proceeds from the sale of this book will go to cystic fibrosis research.
Of both books, or the healing, or which one?
Both.
Both will go to cystic fibrosis research. Wow, that is really awesome. It's a great full circle situation there. So, So what kind of events do you have coming up? Do you have any book signings? Do you have any plans for going around and doing some more, you know, meetings with people?
We don't have any book signings scheduled at this time, but you know, all of my friends, this one just came out not too long ago, and so I've got a lot of people going, I need to get a copy of that. How do I do that? Where do I get it? How do I order that? And so, you know, like I said, you can go to www.markhardagebooks.com, and you can order them from Amazon or on that website. They're available, so that's great. Very
cool. So will there be, is this story complete, or will there be anything else?
Unless something crazy happens, the story is pretty much complete, but I think it ended with the chaplain and the platoon leader coming back, and the family kind of moves on and have, like, through their faith,
and they're good. They're in a good, solid place.
Everything's moving along now, and I think that as the story progresses throughout the end, you can, at the end of the book, it's kind of like, okay, everybody's going to be good to go now. So that's the way I kind of wanted it to end, like that.
Okay, so do you have any more books in the works?
No, not at this time.
Not at this time. You're hanging on to this one for a little while.
Right.
Awesome. So let's again. The first book is called The Knock, and This second book is called The Healing. And again, his name is Marc Hardage. And you can tell them one more time the different places they can purchase these books.
You can get it on Amazon,
Okay.
or you can go to the website that that the publisher did for me. It's just www.markhardage.com. All one word. Just www.markhardagebooks.com, and you can order both books there.
Okay, so on Amazon and Google, or no, just Amazon?
Just Amazon and on that website.
markhardagebooks.com. Awesome. I would really be interested in meeting you and your family. I feel like I know you guys already, and you're a pretty awesome guy, and I look forward to even reading more books that you write in the future. I think you've done a really good job here, and you have a very creative mind, and I like your research style. I like that you didn't just throw a book together, kind of just whatever, just write it. I like that you really included real life people who are in these real life positions to really give you the meat that you need. And so just one more time, the books are located at www.markhardagebooks.com, and that's Mark, M-A-R-C, Hardage, H-A-R-D-A-G-E, books with an S.com, and then also you can locate them on Amazon.com.
That's
and
correct.
It's The Healing, which is the second book, and The Knock, which is the first one. So it's kind of a 2-for-1. You can read one without the other, but why would you when you can just read both? Okay, so thank you, Mark, for being here with us today to discuss your books. It's been a pleasure to get to know you, and we also would like to thank you for joining in. This has been another episode of the Books of the Month show, and I am Melanie, and we look forward to seeing you next week.